Welcome, everyone.
Hello.
Oh, morning, everyone. Good to see so many familiar faces and new faces. Love to know where everybody is currently. Maybe just unmute, say where you're from, just to get a sense of the room. I'm currently in San Francisco. How about you?
West Virginia.
Dad's in Washington.
New York State.
I'm in Belgium.
I'm in London.
I'm in Glasgow.
21 East Kilbride.
Planet Earth.
Salt Lake City.
Beautiful. Well, I'm going to ask everybody to mute just for if you're not speaking, just that way we can hear each other. All right. Well, for those who don't know me, I'm just not sure how to mute everyone.
Yasmin, I'm just south of you in Brisbane.
Oh, amazing. Yay. Perfect. We're neighbors. There we go. So hello, everyone. Welcome to our Hylo Community Call. It's November. I can't believe it's already almost the end of the year. Wow, where has time gone? So if you haven't met me, I'm Yasmin. I'm the community steward for Hylo. We host these community gatherings every month, and we get to meet each other and share a bit of an update from Hylo world, but also really get to know each other and support one another. So before I begin, I'd love to welcome my co-stewards, Clare Brodeur here and Tibet and Krisha, just wave. We have a full room today. I'm very excited because we have a lot of exciting things to share with you. All right, here we go. I think to begin, let's get a sense of the room. I'd love to, there's this new tool that we've been playing with, Mentimeter. And the question we have is, in one word, what are you most craving from community right now? So I put the link in the chat, and you could just respond, and we'll be able to see some fun visuals all together. So let me put the link here again in the question. So in one word, what are you most craving from community right now? And I'll just put the link again. All right. Let's take a few seconds. And let's see what we come up with as a team here. I see some of you are putting in the chat. Okay. Let's see. New connections, perspective, overview. I love that. Wisdom, connection. All right. Let's see what we got. So I'm going to share my screen now and show you this awesome visual that we are co-creating. There we go. Awesome. So we got paradigm shift, insights, nothing in common, effective engagement, progress, belonging. And some of these are actually from last month as well. So we're adding to this ongoing document. Let's see, just a new B, knowledge sharing, critical thinking, weaving, love that, activation, hope, reality, sharing, beautiful, amazing, yay. Thank you all for playing. Okay, well, with that, I am so delighted to introduce Claire, who's going to be sharing, first of all, what Hylo is. How many of you in this room are new to Hylo? Maybe a show of hands. Okay, welcome Laura, Christina, Manuel, Caroline, Mike, amazing, Sarah. I love that. Well, welcome. And we're going to have an onboarding brief session after this call for 20 minutes just to walk you through the platform. So definitely if you're new and want to get a sense of the platform, we'll be doing a brief demo. So over to you, Claire.
Okay. Hey, everybody.
Good morning for those of you on the West Coast, and good afternoon and good evening for those of you in other parts of the world. I'm the director of product for Hylo. So what I consider my job is to listen to the needs of people like all of you doing incredible work in the world in your groups and translate that into really unique, useful technology that doesn't exist anywhere else. And we build it into the Hylo platform as our offering for all of you to try to help you with your work in the world because it's so important. So that's why Hylo exists. And what I'm going to do today is share a brief presentation about our latest thinking about Hylo. It has been a nonprofit for the last 5 years, and it will keep being a nonprofit, and it'll always be free to use. And we are starting to conceptualize how we could also have a tandem um, purpose-driven business attached to Hylo. And then that would enable us to offer some additional premium features that we haven't been able to do yet. So I'm going to share this presentation, which is something that we've been sharing around in the world to impact investors, those types of folks. And we really wanted to also share it with our community and see how all of this lands with you, see if you have input, feedback, questions. What would change in Hylo if we were able to spin up this purpose-driven business alongside our nonprofit? What does that mean? And then for all of you who are pretty new to Hylo, this is going to be just a great basic overview to learn more about the platform in general. So I'm going to share my screen. And can we see this? Yes. Okay, cool. Thank you. And we're going to have lots of time for questions and discussion, but I'll try to just go through it and then we'll do the questions. Okay, so Hylo is for purpose-driven groups, and our purpose is to activate the full potential of these groups to create a flourishing future for all. That is our mission. Not going to read this whole thing, but we have a vision where the world is actually whole and healed and in balance, and humans are in harmony with our more than human kin. And to do that, we think we need to have better relationships, more trust, and ultimately really great coordination so that as a community of humans, we are collaborating really well and effectively to care for our world. That's what we hope to see. So Hylo is a place for purpose-driven and place-based groups. People that are working in place to make these changes, or people that have a really clear purpose and they're coming together around that. Why is that needed? I don't have to tell any of you this. We're facing some kind of crazy things right now, and it's really an open question, like what's going to happen with our civilization. It's hardly even a question of whether we're going to collapse. It's just more of a matter of like, what does that even look like? And are we going to be able to step through that in a way that sets up a beautiful world for our descendants, right? And what I love to see is that all over the place, incredible groups are taking shape in communities, on all the different platforms, so many different platforms, that are talking about these things and responding to disasters together and tackling inequity together. It's so great. But most of the platforms out there are not specifically built for purpose-driven groups. They're more just like typical social media. They're for profit and they're really focused on extracting as much value as possible, stealing the data, presenting ads, like things that are not helpful to the needs of groups that are trying to coordinate impactful action. So Hylo, we put out there, we're really thinking about it as infrastructure for this type of coordination that needs to happen. And we calibrate this technology specifically for the needs of these groups. It's not the same as other groupware platforms out there that are sort of about having a little silo with like a leader who's charging money for their own purposes. Like there's nothing wrong with that, but that's not what Hylo is. Hylo is for groups that are trying to coordinate to make a beautiful future that works for all. Here's some more differences between some of those other platforms and Hylo. Hylo is humane technology. So as we're designing it and we're working with all of these awesome groups to co-design this technology, we are deliberately making it in a way that is gentle on the nervous system, open, as opposed to like proprietary hidden algorithms. We just want it to be very easy and soothing to show up in this space and use it and know that you're going to find value. Hopefully not going to be confronted with anything really taxing to the nervous system. The culture of kindness and care is really, really important here. And if you hang out on Hylo for any amount of time, you will feel that. So getting into coordination, what does that even mean? It's kind of an abstract concept, but we break it down and embody this in the platform. So one unique thing about Hylo is that you can have nested groups. They can be connected to each other so that whole groups can be in relationship and doing things together. There's a lot in the platform around mutual support because that's how we see people building relationships and trust. So things like requests and offers. You can put out what you need, you can offer what you have, and people can meet you in that. And that's really powerful. We have tools for participatory governance, like proposals, and most recently, our funding rounds, which is so cool. And we hope people check that out because it's very powerful when a group of people can make decisions together about their shared resources. And that is just not a thing you can do most places on the internet. And then finally, the place-based tools are a really important part of all of this. Groups on Hylo don't have to be place-based, they can be distributed. But for those that are, we have the geographic map and other tools in the works that are calibrated to really support organizers working in place. Because in the ground, in the hands and soil, that's kind of where the real regeneration is happening. Okay, so why can't we just use WhatsApp? Has anyone here tried to organize a group to get something done on WhatsApp and then become a victim of your own success? I mean, I've been part of those groups. Like all of a sudden there's over 100 people and they're like, the conversation is like pew, 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 and you can't track anything. And it becomes like super hard to follow the conversation, catch up on like 200 chats, that kind of thing. So Hylo is really for those types of groups that might have started out on the WhatsApp and now they're like really off to the races getting things done. At that point, you're going to need more tools than just a chat. And so that's where Hylo comes in. We have chat, but we also have all these ways to dynamically organize and store content like the proposals, the projects, the resources and requests in a way that is just customizable and very approachable. And by the way, there's apps and all that stuff. Okay. All right. I hope I'm going quickly enough, but I'm trying not to go too fast. This is a little bit of our theory of change. Why is relationship so important for coordination? That's where we start. The reason that we focus on that so much is that our whole team, we've all been community organizers and we all are super involved in our communities. And we've seen that it's super important for people to know and trust each other before they can then really like start organizing effectively together. And then let alone, going up this curve to managing resources, like making decisions about money together is really hard. And there has to be that kind of bedrock of relationship, mutual support, accountability in the group before those kinds of things can happen effectively. So that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to like take groups on that journey to a place where they can do these complex collaborative actions. And a bunch of amazing groups are using Hylo, which is crazy because we've never tried to grow the platform. We're in open beta. But nonetheless, we have some incredible groups on the platform. Planetary Health Alliance is the biggest group on Hylo, and the rest of the ones pictured here are some of the most active ones. Yeah, no, it's great. So we have some great place-based groups and then some groups that I would call a community of practice, where it's people around the world that really care about things like equitable economies, bioregional finance, planetary health. So that's sort of the vibe of people using Hylo, people that are super mission driven and doing things together in their group. All right, so this slide is one that we need to update. Not happy with this one, but the point here is that groupware as a category is massive, and there's a lot of room for growth here. And when we think about like, oh, is there a business around this? There's absolutely a lot of upside potential that's possible in ways that are completely values aligned and are not extracting anyone's data, privacy, etc. And so that's what the next few slides are about, and I'll share about that. So what our team is seeking is $5 million, no big deal, so small, just pocket change. And we are going to support thousands of purpose-driven groups around the world to excel and grow and meet their goals. So what we are presenting to potential investment partners, for everyone to know, is that our goal is to raise 5 million in the next few years, and it's not equity. We're offering capped returns from profit. So one thing that our whole team has learned is that offering equity or like venture capital relationships is really dangerous for groups that are values driven, because there gets to be so much pressure to maximize profit instead of just pursuing values and our mission to the world, because our mission is not going to change. So we're pursuing this structure and we're gonna see if it lands. It's not the most common way to raise money, and yeah, it's more quirky. But the idea is that we do get to revenue and profit eventually, and we're not trying to go on a rocket ship to the moon, but it is a stable, secure, and values aligned return for more of the impact investor profile who just wants their money to grow in a place that's values aligned. They don't need to like 10x per se, but are willing to invest in a play that actually has huge upside, not just for them, but for the world and for creating a world that works for all, a future we all can live in. And where would this profit come from, you may be asking? These are some of the things that we're excited to add to Hylo. Again, 95% of the platform will always be free to use. We're not ever going to change that because this is an offering for the world. But some of the things that groups have asked us for are things that could be revenue generating. So those include allowing groups to charge tuition or dues for their members, offering the ability for groups to charge money for their tracks, which are educational courses on the platform. So those are things you see on other platforms, very common. There's some premium features we might throw in, like groups that need a lot of data storage, groups that want to do video streaming, groups that want white labeling. Some of these things are things that take a lot more resources to deliver, and people ask us for them. So we could start offering that. Premium support. This is something that we already do. We partner with groups that need additional support with stewardship, sometimes just as consulting one time and sometimes ongoing. So that program would expand. And then we are excited to launch our own membership community, which will be the Hylo Commons. And that would be something where we would have dues to be a part of, and it would be a super active, vibrant, amazing, connective space on Hylo. So that's kind of what we're thinking. And I'm almost done with this deck for anyone wondering. More stuff about revenue projections, and we will share this and post this in Building Hylo, by the way. So anyone who wants to check this out in greater detail will be super welcome to. Our team is awesome. And when it comes to some of the things we want to work on, we want to work on just usability, I'll say in general, making sure everything is super smooth, implementing those revenue generating features, and looking into how we can use AI in an aligned and consentful way. So not chatbots. But to say a few more words about that, and we can spend more time on it if folks have questions. Things like allowing groups to have their information parsed through and then presented back to them in ways that make it really accessible and easy to take action on that information. And other engineering parts of my team can comment on that if people want to hear more. But those are things that we would do in conversation and partnership with all of our members, not anything that would ever be imposed on a group without consent. This is about the structure we're envisioning. So a tandem structure, a dual entity structure where there's a foundation and a public benefit corp or possibly a worker-owned co-op. That's what we're thinking. Any input on that, very welcome. With everything purpose locked so that it can never be like sold, like the values changed, data all of a sudden is getting stolen and sold to people. None of that, right? We're never doing that. And other special things, the participatory design I've been mentioning is a really core part of who we are. And using that to create a platform like this as a public good piece of infrastructure is a super unique thing that we all get to be a part of. Yes, okay, we're really almost done. When we think about metrics on Hylo, metrics is something people always want to know about. How do we know that this is effective? So we are developing pretty innovative metrics around social cohesion as a concept. We are going to set out to prove that groups that use Hylo will have a measurable increase in social cohesion. And that is really what is necessary to do impactful and effective collaboration. So things that we'll look at include reciprocity, trust, collaboration, like how much is this stuff happening? And we also offer all of this with an eye towards the goals of the global community. So if people are familiar with the UN Sustainable Development Goals, that ties into all of this. And really, we want, if you take away anything from this, I would want it to be hope that a beautiful future, a future where we're all thriving and our children are healthy and happy, that future is within reach. It is possible, and we can get there together. So don't give up hope ever, please. And it's not too late to be a part of it. We can all work on this together. Okay. So thanks for listening to my monologue. Sorry that was long, but would love, oh, thank you. We can take questions, concerns, thoughts, and then there's more great stuff in the call ahead of that.
Hi, Claire.
Hey,
Just want to
hey.
say thank you. My name's Andrew. I'm here from Costa Rica. Tuning in. I've been checking out your stuff. I listened to a great conversation on the Ma Earth podcast, and it was like, oh, I got to check this out a little bit more. And so this is my first time actually engaging with the community in this way. I wanted to ask a little bit more about, you had like a page that showed like, private and then also like your 501c3 entity. And I wanted to get a little bit more depth as to, how exactly that's working, like, what side of the public facing side is going to be interacted with through the community and which side of the private facing side is going to be like more, I guess, like your stakeholders, like how does that work? And also wanted to ask, like, is there a kind of like a social media play in the sense that the goal is to actually give people an opportunity to share inspiring stories and to get them actually connected and engaged in person as well as online. So those are my two questions.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you and welcome. Um, so Hylo already has a dual structure that is just kind of a nascent little baby structure because we have a fiscally sponsored nonprofit and we have an LLC. And with the nonprofit, we are able to accept foundation grants and then offer this technology for free to all of these incredible nonprofits. Um, and then with the LLC, we do service contracts where groups that want to see Hylo developed in certain ways can offer their resources, and then we work together on co-design. And those things together are sort of how this platform functions from like a financial perspective. And so what we're looking at is really just formalizing that in a deeper way, becoming our own 501c3, and then creating an entity that is more robust than an LLC to hold those other pieces. And we have really thought a lot about the public benefit corporation structure. That's very values aligned. But we also really care about cooperatives. And there's some different kinds of those. There's platform cooperatives and there's worker cooperatives. And we have not figured out which of all of those is the best. That's a process that's still in flow for us. And we're excited we have expert advisors who have opinions, and we're still figuring that out. So anyone here that knows about these things and has desires and opinions is definitely welcome to participate in that process. And those decisions will be made in the open. We make almost all of our decisions in the open and share where we're at with that with people in the Building Hylo community. So this is the first time we're sharing this presentation and we're going to post it there. And then we can totally digest all of these things together as a group. Anyone that's interested in going deep with us. Yeah. I see Brandon. Hey, Brandon. Good to see you.
Hello, yeah. Excuse me. Yeah, I got to drop in a few minutes. Well, I was just wondering, is there a possibility that like a different organization could add features that they sell that then in turn, like maybe a percent gets sent back to the Hylo team? You know, like let's say, I don't know, insight dashboards and intervention pathways for community organizers and root cause analysis and impact measurement. Some cool stuff like that, you know. I mean, working with some people who are thinking like, hey, why don't we build a platform to do some stuff? And like, okay, well, probably you don't want to start from scratch. But they still like they want to, you know, kind of like you guys, you know, they're like a nonprofit and they're like, okay, how do we pay the people who are building this stuff, the team members, you know? So I don't know if there is any kind of a deal that could be worked out or something that's possible.
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting concept. So we think of Hylo as a technology commons, right? Like something that we can all contribute to and benefit from together. We don't see it as something that any one group has like ownership over, right? And that's part of why we're not giving equity. That's just like not what this is. It belongs to everyone. And I think that idea is really interesting, Brandon, of having kind of like sort of a marketplace of these extra features that people can pay for, and then that money goes to benefit the platform as like additional ways that the platform can just be supported. Because, you know, there's hosting fees, there's salaries for people that are caring for the platform. Really, like our operation is pretty bare bones and the costs are not that high, but nonetheless, you know, there are some costs. And so that's really interesting. And I think let's keep that conversation going. Okay, Cynthia.
Hi, let me put my hand down here. Oh well. Thank you, Claire. It looks like you guys are really moving in a good direction. I'm happy to see here.
Thanks.
But I was wondering in terms of the communities or groups, because the one I'm most interested in related to MECFS is, it's made up, it's already distributed organizing both regionally and globally, but the core at the heart is still individuals, advocates and organizers and things.
Mhm.
So I just was wondering, in the long haul, I can't even think of the question. It's like, how do you foresee people being able to grow their groups when you have, because it sounds like you're going in a more, both you are in the nonprofit and you're looking at business models too. But some of the communities, I'm not sure how exactly how to ask my question, may need to be evolving in those same directions as your platform, if that makes sense, in terms of resources. And I can tell I look up. Yeah, it's complicated. I know where I'm going with it. It's kind of in the weeds a little bit, but I didn't know if you foresee groups as they advance, maybe this is a better question, having to restart as you evolve and as they have more capabilities, or if you think there's a structure they can grow in as they expand and fundraise. And because I think for a lot of groups, they also like mine intersects with healthcare, which is suddenly a much huger issue globally and regionally than it was before. So suddenly you're doing work in one area and then moving also to another because it affects your group, if that's a better example.
Yeah,
And
that's helpful. Yeah, thank you, Cynthia.
yeah.
Yeah, I think one of the things that we really love about Hylo is that groups can start to work together and then form larger movements.
Okay.
And what we really want to
Movement.
see, we really want to see groups creating more and more like bigger containers where, and maybe this is something that our team should do as stewards, but for example, we recently created the Climate Commons space as a space where there's like so many climate groups on Hylo. It's a space where those groups can all get connected just to this category that so many people care about. And so then all of a sudden there can be cross talk across these groups that are working on climate. And then they have the potential to be making connections that didn't exist before in this category that they're all interested in. And healthcare is another amazing category for that. The disability rights movement. Those are all like great categories for like bigger groups that more of these groups could join together to steward together so that there's a space for those movements. So I hope that answers that. And also real quick, I remember there was a second part of Andrew's question that I didn't answer. So Andrew, if you're still there, this is for you, which was, are we doing like a social, is there like a social media aspect to this? And coordination in groups is, it's a sort of a different paradigm than traditional social media, but we have been hearing that some people would like to have just the ability to like follow a specific individual apart from the group context. And, maybe you're in different groups with some thought leaders, but you also just want to hear if they post something, you want to see it, regardless of what group it's in, right? Yes. So that's totally a concept that's in the mix. And it's complex to figure out how that paradigm would coexist with the group's paradigm, but it is something that we're exploring and definitely want to make space for that type of interaction as well as the in-group interaction. Yeah. Okay, cool. I see Diana.
Hi, Claire. Thanks. I am joining you all from Black Mountain, North Carolina, and I learned about Hylo last spring due to there was a neighborhood economics conference here in Asheville. And so some of the organizers introduced me to Hylo then. But this is my first time really jumping into any of your webinars. And I'm curious, I work with a couple of nonprofits, and one of them is pretty large and they use Slack as their communication channel, and they're moving towards a sociocratic model for their structural organization, and moving away from sort of an executive director to, again, this more sort of flat organizational structure. And that's including the board, and they've got all these systems. And so I'm curious from a practical lens for small and quickly growing nonprofits, is this something that they could use in the same way that they're using Slack? Like, could they shift their project management and their communication systems over to something like Hylo? And what would that look like? How could I introduce this to them if that is the case, to make that onboarding possible? Because it now would be the time to do it, I think, because the board doesn't have a communication strategy they like, and they're moving into the sociocratic model.
cool. So cool. Great question. So we practice sociocracy on our team. And before we used Hylo ourselves, we used Slack. And our team fully migrated over to Hylo a couple years ago. And so what we have for our structure is we have one group that's our general circle, which is like the main organizing circle for anyone not into sociocracy. And then there's different circles that are like domain areas. And so we have a separate group on Hylo for each of our domain areas. Like we have our dev circle, we have our product and design circle, and we have more, but those are the main ones. And so we totally use it that way. And different conversations happen in those different spaces. And if something's important for multiple circles, that post can get shared to multiple groups and it's the same conversation. So that's a really powerful thing. And what's also great is that Hylo is just so customizable and can evolve with your group as it evolves. So you could start with one group for your general circle, and then as other circles are being created and spun out, then you can just add those on. And they can be connected as peers, as subgroups. You can sort of set that up however is appropriate. And just like Slack, you can have chat channels as well. So whatever chat channels you want to use, you could start with one group and then just have chat channels for each different circle if you want to keep it really simple.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. And you can reach out to me or our team if you want to have more conversation.
Yeah, I would love to introduce them to you.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you.
Emails in the chat.
Wonderful.
Okay. And I know we're taking a lot of time on this. Yasmin, is that okay? I see a few more hands raised. Okay. I think this is really juicy and good. Good questions, everyone. Okay, Manuel, nice to meet you.
How y'all doing? The main thing, the first thing I'm gonna say is, I believe in closed mouths don't get fed. Don't get fed, right? I believe in that quote. And this is my first time in this Zoom. This is honestly, I found out about this organization probably 3 days ago. So I'm gonna just dive in head first. My first question is, how can the beginning community help with the expert community to do and make a big impact in our vision? The beginning community, how can us as in the beginning community help the expert community in the meantime?
I might need to ask you to rephrase that question. When you talk about beginning community,
so beginning community as in, let's say, eyes on me, since I'm very new, right?
Okay, so you as an individual.
Individual or even newcomers that are joining on board, how can we make a bigger impact and help the expert community that have been here and have been a part of this shit? What can we do out here in the actual real life to make an impact for the organization? Where can we start? What can we do?
Okay, and when you say, what can you do? How can you help? What are you talking about helping? Like the Hylo community or something?
Community, the Hylo community are
okay, sorry, just making sure. I think one thing I want to say is that when we are encouraging people to use Hylo and coordinate, we don't just want those people to be coordinating online. We really want that to translate into action out in real life on the ground. Which I think was maybe another question that Andrew had. This is all about actually like getting off the computers and doing things in our communities. And that's part of why we don't use like dopamine hacks on Hylo to try to like keep you scrolling or whatever. We don't want you to be on the platform any longer than you have to. We want you to go and take the connections you made and like go meet those people and do the thing, right? So if you are out in the world and you are part of groups in your community that are trying to get things done, you would be welcome to present Hylo as a potential support. And bringing more people into this community is really helpful because the more different communities that are using Hylo, the more different groups that are using Hylo, the more input we're getting from people on the ground doing the real work. And listening to those people is what helps us ensure that we're making useful technology and that it's as good and useful as it could possibly be for as many different types of groups as we can support. Obviously, we're not going to ever meet like everyone's needs, but we just want to be making sure like we are really giving groups the tools that they need. Um, so if you're out there being part of really cool groups, you are welcome to bring them here. You're welcome to be part of the community, and your voice is very welcome in the space to help shape this.
Okay.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does. It does. And I actually have one more question. So is our community and is this organization more focused on the present? Or are we more focused on the future?
That's really philosophical. I think both. I think both, but maybe the future a little bit more because we're trying to steer this whole crazy ship towards a world that works for all. And right now that's not what we have. So we're really trying to support groups that are taking action that results in culture change and real impact that benefits people's, everyday lives.
Right.
I'll jump in and just add a couple brief things, which is I put a link to our group explorer, which is a way, Manuel, you can find groups on Hylo to get involved in and support. And also we've put some other links in the chat to the Building Hylo community, where we're kind of in the process of building this platform in the open, as well as the Hylo community organizers. And so there's communities you can join and just participate and offer your thoughts and ideas. We're always looking for developers. If you know of engineers who want to potentially offer open source contributions. So there's many ways to support the development of the platform or to get involved in communities that are already there doing, regeneration work or doing whatever impact, purpose-driven impact that they're bringing into the world. So I just wanted to say that as well.
Thanks, T. Okay, we have a question from Sean, and I think that's the last hand. So we'll give it back to you after that, Yasmin. Hey, Sean.
Hey, Claire. Thank you. So I'm out in Ireland. It's funny, Manuel saying he heard about it a few weeks ago. I think I first signed up to Hylo in 2014. I checked back.
Hey,
and like
OG.
been really, really impressed with the ethos of it. But back then it was, a lot less developed. And yeah, since I've kind of re-engaged, this is the first time I've been on a call with like the community. I missed the first 10 minutes of this, but was really impressed with what I did see. Claire, thank you. It really feels like the ethos still feels like something we really want to be aligned with. And I'm kind of involved in the world of offering, I guess, courses and programs and training around kind of collapse and how we respond to that. Like friends of mine are in the organizers of Otherwise and the Great Simplification who've signed up to Hylo recently.
Yes.
Yes. And we're kind of exploring it because I was really happy to hear what you were saying about groups being able to transition from using Slack to using Hylo and that seemingly working well. In our cases, it's more about transferring from services like Circle and like Neo courses and these kind of community platform type spaces. And my own community, survivingthefuture.org, we basically self-built, and I was really amused reading one of your pages where it's saying, trust us, this is going to be a lot more fun than building this all from scratch yourself. And I absolutely trust you because it's been no fun at all.
Yes, I wouldn't wish that on anyone.
But yeah, we do now have it all built in, free and open source software. So WordPress, LearnDash, Jitsi, NodeBB, all of that kind of stuff. And it was a bunch of hassle. And so really what we're interested in is like, is Hylo at a point where it makes sense to either migrate ourselves or encourage allies like, as say, Otherwise and Great Simplification to do that. And at the moment, the one thing that I haven't seen on Hylo is kind of video conferencing solutions, because like Zoom is one thing we don't use because we don't agree with their ethos. So we're using Jitsi, but it's not great. It's okay. Has definitely its space, but when you get into larger groups, it's not ideal. And I wondered, is that something that you're looking at providing within your platform, or is that outside of your scope?
Yeah, well, welcome and thank you for your support. We've been really happy having Otherwise and the Great Simplification on Hylo. They're part of it now and some of our most active groups. Video is a complex feature to build. Definitely involves moving a lot of data across the wires. Right now, we're thinking about that as a potential premium feature that groups could pay for. It's not something we've built. It is something we'd like to build. And for now, what groups do is they just use whatever video solution they like. So if you're creating an event on Hylo, you can just put your join link for the video chat, whether it's Zoom, Jitsi, or something else. And that's just a third-party tool that can be used. So that's where we are with that right now.
Cool. Yeah, because we have a meeting on Monday with Big Blue Button, who are one of the providers of that kind of service,
that's
to
another one.
see whether that's a good integration. But okay, so at the moment, you don't anticipate having your own solution to that. You see that as a third-party thing.
At the moment, we don't have our own solution. It is a third-party thing, but it is on our eventual roadmap. So let's say medium-ish term.
Great, thank you.
I would actually say that it's pretty unlikely we will build our own video chat. I think we would likely integrate with Jitsi or Big Blue Button or an existing open source provider, just because it's such I mean, it's becoming easier, but it's such a massive thing that we may as well build on top of something that other people are maintaining, and not try and rebuild every wheel. Integrate as much as we can with existing open source and values aligned platforms. That's probably the most likely route.
It's just there's another like, as I mentioned, I was involved with Otherwise and TGS kind of deciding to go into Hylo, and there's another community called Fieldwork who are looking at it, and at the moment they're using Circle, which you're probably familiar with, circle.so, which is a kind of community platform. And yeah, like their video conferencing is great, and we were like, oh, what is this? Is it a reskinned whatever? But it turns out they just built it themselves because they're a massive venture capitalist scumbag organization. Yeah, okay, great, thank you. That's enough for now. I won't take up more time.
Cool. Yasmin,
All
back
right.
to you.
I love all the questions, and I know there's more. So keep them coming, and we'll try to, we'll stay after the call as well to do a demo. So if you have more questions, we could stay on for another 20 minutes. But we have a special guest today that I want to introduce. Jeff Parrett has been one of Hylo's most devoted champions and ambassadors over the years. And he is a retired engineer who is putting all his ideas into action. He is the founder of the Rising Foundation and the Hozho Collective, and focused a lot on social change over the decade. Two of the communities he stewarded in on Hylo are the Next Economy, based on Contributionism, which he'll tell us all about, and many more. Jeff, welcome. We're so happy you're here.
Thanks, Yasmin, and everybody. Oh, hey, let's see. Am I unmuted here?
Yes.
There we go. Thank you so much. And I'm just so impressed. Sean, I actually wrote down the first time I was involved with Hylo, which is 2016. I didn't think there was anybody out there. And I was one of the original venture capitalists that started Hylo and was on the board. And really, like, how do we create a social impact platform that's not about extraction? And I just want to give props to the Terran Collective. What you guys have done and how you are carrying this. And we're at a really powerful inflection point in the world. And, how do we find each other? So Diane, or Diana, I use Hylo to run my board of directors. In fact, we have our board meeting tonight. So great thing to do. Emmanuel, be that champion, right? Start your own organization, start a group, get people involved, and over we see it's that champion that like holds the group and facilitates it that really makes it take off. And I love we're starting to see things. I've been following Nate and the Great Simplification from the beginning, and there's this convergence that's happening, right? All these things burst out there. And now there's a convergence happening. We're finding each other wherever we're at in the world. And so I always like to think about, I want to give you 3 reasons why you should use Hylo. Right. And if we've got the 3 reasons, then it's just about taking it out in the world. And the first one is it's all about connection. Right. And I call the 4 quadrants of connection that have to do with time and place. Same time, same place. We're here, same time, but different places. Right. And so there's these 4 quadrants. And what Hylo gives you is the capacity to execute things in each of the quadrants. Right. So if we're at different times in different places, how do we find each other? Well, we've talked about Slack, we've talked about email, we've talked about chat, WhatsApp. We've just had this explosion of platforms. And it's like, where is that message? How do I find that? And I'm sure we've all had this, like, how do I find it? Right. Well, have a single point of entry, right? Create a group. I just started a new group yesterday. I probably have a dozen groups that I work with within the Hylo ecosystem. And there's some high level groups. The Rising Foundation group is there, and that's where I run my board. The Hozho Collective is a bioregional movement that I'm working on towards new economies. And so there's a group there. And within that, we have a lot of subgroups for the projects that we're working on. But I think the one that's the central focus of my world right now is something called contributionism. What if we shift from a capital-based economy to a needs-based economy? And what would that look like? And how would we design that? And so using Hylo as this platform to connect with each other in these different quadrants, right? So that's the first reason. The second one is something that I saw over and over as an engineer is people reinventing the wheel. It's like, why are we wasting human effort? So Sean, to your point, I talked to the Hylo team. It's like, stay in your lane, right? Be that place where people can come together and connect. And where there's another tool, find the partner, right? So within my groups, I have a punch out to my Zoom group for my board of directors. So now when someone texts me and says, what's our Zoom link? I said, go to Hylo. Right? So we're not answering these same questions over and over again. So we have a lot of conversations around how do we stay in this lane and really do what we do most effectively and find the partners that we can partner with. So I have a punch out to Google Drive, right? It's a great platform and maybe there's better ones out there, but wherever you're storing content, have an access to that. So I love that feature about Hylo. But here's the third one, and I think the most important one. It becomes a system of record. Right? Now you have a history of what your group has been doing in one spot. Now you bring somebody new on board. Hey, go back and look at the previous conversations, right? Every time I have a new board member come onto my foundation, I have to bring them up to speed. Well, now I've got things that I can point them at, right? And I can, they can go back and I don't have to explain all the reasoning, all the logic of why we did or didn't do something because it's there in the platform. And so I think those 3 reasons really give a foundation of what Hylo can be. And yesterday, or I mentioned yesterday, I started a new group. So I'm working on a book project. And we were using email, we were using chat, we were using Google Drive, and stuff was getting scattered all over. And there's just 2 of us. Right. And so now let's bring it into a group. And now, as we're working on various aspects of the book, we start a discussion and we can keep in touch and communication and focused on that particular element. And so, if you can't tell, I'm a zealot for Hylo and what it can be. But I think what it really takes is what Manuel was kind of asking about is to be that champion. right? To stand in it and, be willing to, we've got such platform fatigue, right? There's more and more stuff happening out there, and there's a bit of resistance that I think we have to overcome to get people engaged. But once they see the real value of it, then it's so much easier to collaborate and work together. And so I'm going to share the working title of the book we're working on. It's called Emergence to Convergence: Chaos, Imagination, and Creation. Like, there is a convergence that's happening now, right? There's been this burst of innovation, of ideas and people doing things that are all about social impact in the world. And now we're finding each other, right? Now we're converging into a single, entity. And I loved what you guys said, Claire, about the super groups, if you will, where people can come together and have a climate change commons where we can work and collaborate together. So you can find me. I'm on Hylo. You can see my profile. There's links to the work that I'm doing, and send me a chat if you want to connect.
Thank you, Jeff. I'm curious, like, what is next for you with all these different groups on Hylo? Like, what's exciting and what's next? You always have something amazing going on, so tell us.
So this is the crazy thing, is the big question that's in my mind is, how do we get more IRL, in real life kind of activity going on? And I started looking at like what groups have really done an effective job of that. And I'm listening to a book on power versus force, and there was this chapter on organizations, and what came up was Alcoholics Anonymous, how they've created these super active groups. And they said in the US, probably over 50% of the population have somehow been influenced by alcoholics or some kind of AA type group. And I said, Capitalists Anonymous? And so really looking at how do we create these self-organized, self-empowered groups that people can start on their own and start building their own projects. So that's what's going on for me right now.
Amazing. And someone's asking for the name of the book, if you want to respond to them in the chat. Thank you so
Which
much. Oh, the book that you mentioned.
So if you go to my profile, I have a book list that is actually in there. It's in a Google Drive, and you can click right on it and see all the books that I've read. But the one that I'm reading right now is called Power versus Force, where force tries to implement something, whereas power allows, standing in your power.
Love that. And I just put the link to Building Hylo. So if you're not on there, definitely join. So 2 more minutes before we end the call. And for anyone who's new, you're welcome to stay an extra 20 minutes. I'll just do a brief demo. We have office hours as well next week. So for now, here's the link for our next community call in December. That will be the last community call of 2025. I cannot believe it. But one more thing, we're gonna take a group photo, family picture. We do it every month. So if you don't have your camera on, we'd love to see you briefly on the count of 4, 3, 2, smile. Amazing. Love it. You're all awesome. Thank you all so much for being here today. And again, if anybody want to stay a little bit more, I'm just gonna go through a demo and yay. All right.
Thank you all.
Thank you all.
Thanks, everyone. So nice to see you all. See you on Hylo.
Bye-bye.
All right, here we go. So I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen for now and just go through the platform. So currently we are on Building Hylo. So on the left side here, you could see all the different communities that I'm part of. There's Building Hylo, Hollow Movement, Climate Commons. So we'll start with the Building Hylo platform, community. So on the left side, you can see the general chat. So when you join, you'll be able to say hello and introduce yourself. And this is kind of like the main landing page. Like when you arrived on the platform, this is where you land. You can also go to the stream, and this is where a lot of the posts are. You could filter based on posts, discussions, events, offers, projects, proposals, and requests, and also resources. So this is an example. So similar to like what a Facebook page looks like, but this is a way to look at all of the posts that are shared by the community. This is the chat. Let's see, introductions. You can have like click on the join us live, which is all of the events that are happening. So we're able to look at a calendar view, but also you could change the view here, and you're able to see all of the events that are happening that month. If you find a bug or want a feature, like this is the place to request them. So it will take you to another page. And then we also have some links around the tutorials, the Hylo manual, and the code base. So if I go to there we go. This will just take you to the YouTube page. We have all of the previous events on here and a lot of interesting resources for you to go through. All right, so I'm gonna go to my profile now and go through some of the content feature here. So you have my post, my interactions, my mentions. Like if someone mentions you, this is a way to find those posts. We also have announcements on here, and then saved post, tracks, and funding rounds. Okay, I'm wondering, let's see, I want to show you a couple more feature and then kind of open up to questions, but this is your profile. So you're able to have, you can edit your profile where you add your location, you can have different social links, you can add your skills and interest, and this is a way to actually find each other as well. And then you can link your social accounts. All right, I'm also going to show you, let's see, these are my groups. So this is where I could find all the groups that I'm part of. And some groups are public, some groups are private. So you can request to join a group, and that's how you can find them. Let's see what else. I think that maybe I'll stop there for now and answer any questions that come up. Oh yeah, these are the messages, obviously, and notifications. The comments, this is kind of like the public stream of the, of the main group. And yeah, let's see if anyone has any questions so far. Let's see. I'm gonna stop sharing for a moment so I can see you. All right. Okay, Klaus, go for it.
Yeah, I was just asking, how do you go about creating a group? What is all involved with that?
So let's see, I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen again. So basically, once you join Hylo, if you go to your profile, like my profile right here, actually, let's see, and you go all the way to the bottom of the page, there's a plus sign. And here you see what would you like to create, discussion, event, offer, and at the very bottom, there's group. So I can go ahead and click on that. And this is how you create it. You set a group banner, you add an icon, name the group. You could decide if you want it to be public, hidden, or private, and then you can jump right in. So it's quite simple to create a group. Okay, Christina.
That's amazing. I have so many questions, and maybe I'll keep jumping back in. So I've been on the well since 1998. This is an online community that was built in the mid 80s. And one of the things that distinguishes it from what we call social media is that you have to be who you are, that you cannot join anonymously. And one of the ways that they do that is they charge a fee. And so they use the credit card to validate identity. Is there any plan to do that? Question one. Or how are you managing that? There was a note on your on Claire's presentation that seemed to suggest that there was a hint of that. The other thing is privacy. One of the foundations of the well is this thing called YOYOW. You own your own words. Partly this was implemented because a lot of authors joined initially and they didn't want their work in its beginnings and then copied outside of the community. Even something as simple as the video or the presentation that was shared, is that considered something I can take off to talk to other people about? What's the expectation about your words or your content that appears on Hylo being respected as yours? And then the third is a small town group not an appropriate use of this, or this is precisely one of the appropriate uses of this? 3 questions. Thank you.
Yeah. I'll start with the third and second, and maybe you'll remind me of the first question because I've already forgot. I would say that yeah, the local community is precisely what this is built for. I mean, we have a lot of communities that have global presence, so you have members around the world, but we see a lot of use in terms of like people who live locally, and it's a way for them to coordinate if there are events or things happening in town, or if people have different needs. There's like the asks and offers. So I would definitely encourage, yeah, local engagement within Hylo, because that's kind of one of the best use cases that we have. In terms of the privacy, like a lot of the data that we collect is sacred, so we definitely don't share any of that publicly. Now with these conversations and community calls, they are on YouTube, so they are public, but anything that happens within the platform is considered confidential, and we don't sell the data to any entity or organizations. It's really just used for members to find each other and be able to yeah, coordinate and you know, all of that. So do you want to remind me of your first question?
Yeah, I understand some people would like to be anonymous, but I don't want people misrepresenting who they are either. And so how do you see that?
Yeah, I will take this question to there. I'm more on the community team, so I don't fully know. Like I'm happy to, yeah, get back to you by email on that question. Cool. Thank you, Christina. Manuel.
I really just wanted to say, thank you for the invite. Once again, obviously, I'm definitely new to the community, and I like to learn. I like to learn, adapt, and just what we call "quote unquote" win one soul over at a time. And that's just my main mission, and just helping in whatever way I can, and no matter if that's, once again, diving head first and for the next person to be able to be saved, or even just standing back and giving some advice. So once again, I thank you, Yasmin, and I hope I see you soon.
Yeah, thank you so much, Manuel. I'm so happy you could join us today. I see a question from Gordon about, yes, it is definitely possible to set up subgroups within the group. So once you create a group, you're able to then create subgroups within that and assign different members to each group. And Gordon, maybe I'm just going to put the link here for office hours, which is happening November 24th. And Krisha, who's on the product team, it can help you set it up, or if you have any more detailed questions. Yeah, I'm just going to put that in here so you have it. Christina.
Yeah, I realized I had one more question when I looked at my notes. Jeff said to find his profile on Hylo, and I went, I don't know how to do that. How do you do that? Can you share
Amazing.
that?
Yes, I can help with that. So let me go ahead and share my screen again. So we're gonna go to Building Hylo. And again, I'm just gonna put the link in the chat for all of you, if you haven't already, to join this is kind of like our central community right now, like where most people are. So I'll put the link here in the chat. So once you join, and you're gonna go to members, and this is where you could find all of the members here. And you could sort by name, by location. So let's go ahead and find Jeff. So I'm just gonna search Jeff. Okay, I also know his last name, so it's Parrett. Is it one R? There we go, perfect. There we go. So Jeff is here, and you could see his profile, like his bio, and you can go ahead and send him a message. So just say like, hi Jeff, you were great today. And voila. So that's how you find members in the note.
And are maps working? Because I noticed that the first day when I joined, I was showing up on the map, and then since then I don't show up on the map.
Let me double check.
But I haven't joined that group yet, so maybe I'm not considered a part of the.
Yeah, I think you'll have to join first before you're seen on the map.
Well, I was in the Great Simplification, which is the community that I
Oh.
initially joined, but you can't look there, so you won't be able to check on it. I'll try some more.
Okay, so I could, let's see. Yeah, I think you'll have to be in the group for me to be able to see you in the map. Okay, all right. Any other questions? Still have a couple more minutes. Manuel? Oh, I see a question. Manuel, is your hand up or?
I apologize. I meant to put that down a long
Okay,
time
great.
ago. I didn't put that down real quick. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to do that.
I see a question from Mohammed. Do you wanna desktop app for Mac? Oh yeah, that's a great question. Is it Beverly? Bev? Yeah, so currently Hylo has both a we have an app, like a web version, but also a mobile app, but not yet yeah, not yet on desktop app. I think that's something they're working on. So I'll keep you posted on that timeline. Mohammed has a question. Okay. Fresh graduate, medical technology, okay. Do you want to unmute maybe and ask your question? I don't think I fully understand what you're asking.
Sure, I will unmute and ask my question. Actually, I am a fresh graduate of BS MLT, mean Medical Laboratory Technology from Pakistan, and now I am pursuing my master's in public health from an international university or organization. So that's why I'm asking for that. There any professor or anyone present in Hylo chain that will provide me an opportunity to join his research according to public health and like this, some programs like this.
Well, that's a good question. Congratulations first for graduating. That's exciting. I
Thanks a
feel like
lot.
maybe the best, let me see. I'm just kind of doing a search right here. You know, one idea is just to go to the directory and just research public health and see what comes up. Let's see. I'm not seeing any. Oh, there we go. So one possibility would be to kind of just look through the different communities, and if they're public, you can just reach out to them maybe, you know, Hylo is about connection. So just say hello and introduce yourself and see who might be in that industry and might have some internship or opportunities. But yeah, it's kind of like choose your own adventure and, you know, look up people and organizations and just reach out.
Okay, I will. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, of course. Incredible. Any final questions? Oh, great. I'm so happy to hear, Gary. I'm usually on the community team, so more on the human interaction, not quite on the product. So this is stretching my my horizons as well. So I'm happy it's been helpful. Beautiful. Awesome. Well, thank you all so much. We can't wait to see you next month. I'll post the link again for the December community call in the chat, and we can't wait to see you. Thank you all so much. Ciao.